Hi, everyone. My name is Jason Long. I'm the general manager for Cantata Health's Net Solutions division, and I'm here today with Kevin McCormick, and we're going to be talking today about social isolation for residents in nursing homes, SNFs, ALFs, etc., and what can be done about it, and how big of a problem it really is. So, Kevin, how's it going? Tell us what's going on with social isolation.
Good morning, Jason. Uh, Social isolation. I'll start with a little story about my son, who took a year off from college after high school. After a year, he decided he wanted to take a year off, and he worked for the post office delivering mail. And one of the things that he found, and he came back home after a couple of weeks and said the seniors on his route, all they're doing is waiting for the mail and waiting for the interaction, the anticipation of seeing him and what came in the mail. And he was just dumbfounded by it. And that such a mundane delivery of the mail was the biggest thing they have in their day. And every day someone would give him a drink, a snack, as they anxiously waited for his arrival. Some of them waited outside on their front stoop. So that's an interesting piece. Also, personally, my father-in-law, who passed away a couple of years ago, he's at 98 when he, finally passed away. But he was living at home, and my wife's got 7 brothers and sisters that are around with 30 grandchildren, and still, all his contemporaries were gone, but it was still sort of social isolation for him, and it really took a lot of work and effort. It's just amazing, how easy it is to fall into that trap. And even now, with the younger people have the issue. I've got 2 at home that are in college, but they can't go to the campus. So everything's remote. They're blocked off from their, college fun, all the college interaction, the social piece. So it's very difficult for them too. So you get an understanding, it really hits home. And social isolation, is just, the lack of contact between one individual and their family, their friends, their support groups, and not having that, or not having a support group to per se.
Gotcha.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and I assume that this is, in fact, I know that this is hitting the residents of assisted living facilities and skilled nursing facilities, and also CCRCs. Like, I think it's hitting everybody. It's hitting everybody really hard. I know that I've visited a few senior communities recently, and places where people used to be just out walking, out talking to each other, like just seeing each other all the time, visiting, and nobody's doing anything. Like, everybody stays in all the time, and I think it's been really hard for a lot of people, especially inside the SNFs.
Absolutely. They're confined to their room at times. If there's someone with COVID in the facility, and they're isolating the people that are healthy, and they're not getting out. And it leads, and that not only is it, a mental health, but their overall health, the boredom, lack of interest, withdrawal. It ends up poor nutrition, poor eating habits. It brings a lot of different health problems, cognitive decline, anxiety, depression. They're used to seeing, whether it's a hug from the staff or volunteers that come in, or family members that now can't visit them, or it's very limited as to if they can visit. So it's really taken a toll on the senior care.
And I think in addition to that, I read a journal paper, I think it was last year, it was either this year or last year, that actually said that one of the number one things you can do to increase your longevity is just social interaction. That was one of the top biggest things. And so if we're seeing this huge lack of social interaction among residents of these kinds of facilities, I'm sure it's a killer. I'm sure it's not just the depression. It's probably really actually taking years off of people's lives, What do you think about that?
Absolutely. Everything that they used to do, they look forward to in a facility has been reduced or stopped, temporarily. So if they had, a hobby or the visiting pet program came, that's not coming anymore. So, but those are the things that can be done to combat that isolation. And a lot of those have been stopped,
Really?
and
So what can be done now? Like what are you seeing now that's working? And
uh,
what recommendations do you have for everybody watching about the things that they can do to combat things right now?
well, one of the things that I've seen, and I've been to a lot of nursing facilities over the years, hundreds, if not, thousands, uh, that, gardens are really an incredible uh, boost, whether, just a small outdoor garden that they can go out, tend, and watch the growth of because it changes every day. And, if they have a stake in it, they have something to look forward to. They have, tending a garden. Everybody does it. It's good for. It was one of the biggest things that happened during the quarantine is people building gardens. So I did one in my backyard,
I've
and
got one in my front yard actually.
I'm picking green beans last night and tomatoes, and we had all sorts of and Brussels sprouts. It's great.
Yep.
So that's the kind of thing. I mean, even if it's a small herb garden in the window of each individual's room. They're very inexpensive. Just to be able to see that growth and have something that they're responsible for to take care of, it gets a sense of self back.
I wonder also, when you're handling plants and if even if you're just picking fruits or just touching things, I wonder also how much that tactile experience can make a difference in people's lives.
I think it does.
Yeah.
And you have a history of farming in your family, and you were a farmer at one point,
Yep.
so you certainly can attest to that. And I enjoy it. I think it's fun. I used to only do perennial plants, but now I'm getting into the whole gardening and the vegetables, and I love it.
Yeah, it's so for anybody watching this, I used to be a farmer. I was a blueberry farmer, and I did that for about 6 or 8 years, somewhere. I think it was almost 8 years. I was a blueberry farmer and worked on a 60-acre blueberry farm. So, yeah, I can definitely relate to. Once again, I was thinking like that tactile sense, but then also just a connection to the land and a connection to the things that are growing. I think that makes a really big difference. It certainly did for me.
And the seasons and the seasonality and the growth and the whole uh, planting to harvesting, concept. I think it's a great thing, and there's a lot been written on it. It's really a great thing to do. So those are some of the things you can do to combat it. Certainly, if you're able to have volunteers in, it's a great way to do that.
Okay. Any other ideas on that?
Yeah, I think pets are a lot of facilities might have a facility pet. I've been to ones they've had cats, they've had a dog, uh, but they also have visiting pet programs, which you can pay a fee. The facility can, and they bring a pet in on a weekly basis, let's say, and I see people light up when they see the pet. A big golden retriever comes in and they visit. They go down the hallway, and it's just remarkable what occurs.
Yep. So when I was in a rehab hospital after a really terrible car accident, they would actually bring the pets around. I was there for a while, and I remember always looking forward to the dogs coming around. That was like one of my favorite things was having the dogs come around. So I was never I was never in a sniff, but I think it was a somewhat similar experience. I couldn't get out of the bed. I was in bad shape, and man, it really livened up my day every time I saw those dogs come around.
And who doesn't smile when a dog comes wagging its tail and just wants to be petted? I mean, it, it's a great thing. So I'm not a big cat person, but I love dogs. I think they do have some programs. Some of them have cats they bring in because some people are cat people and they don't like dogs. So
Yep.
yeah,
They had I think they brought the cats in as well, but they never I'm allergic to cats, so they never brought the cats into my room. I think they had some, but I can't recall.
something to think about actually if you're going to do that.
Yep, for sure, for sure. So what about are there other than just the gardening and the pets and things like that? What about the technology? I mean, that's we're a tech company, and then there's so much tech right now available for to connect with people that you care about. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, go back to personal experience. My father-in-law, he was in World War II and the Korean War, and during the war he had some hearing loss, but of course that accelerated at age 80 to where the point he had tough time interacting with people. He pretends it's on, he forgets to turn it on. I think even when it was on, he had a hard time. And if if a person in a facility doesn't have a hearing aid and they really should, or they're not wearing it, that isolates them dramatically. You could see the difference when the battery went on the hearing aid, and he'd be Paul, and he'd just stare into space. So there was no interaction whatsoever. So if anybody is in need of hearing aids or has them, you should make sure they have it in, because they're not going to hear the conversation, the music, the phone call that they might have with family and friends, and they're not going to interact well. So it's really important that they do use them, and you do have hearing checked on a regular basis, because it does decline rather rapidly and for certain people at certain points in their age.
Coincidentally for me as well, when I had brain damage in that car accident I was in, and I had I don't remember the term they used to describe it. It's a medical term, but I could hear you, but I couldn't understand what you were saying. So like, and it didn't happen if it was a one-on-one conversation, it wasn't a problem. But if there were 3 or 4 people in the room all talking, I couldn't understand. Like if you were talking to me, I couldn't understand what you were saying, and it was isolating. It was really, it was frustrating. It was upsetting, and I felt like I couldn't be a part of the conversations that were happening in especially in a crowded room, and yeah, I couldn't imagine like if I couldn't hear at all, it would be so frustrating. It would be so upsetting. It would be so frustrating, and it would be really, really isolating. And fortunately, by the way, for me, that's healed. But I was told at one point there was a good chance that wasn't going to heal, and that was really upsetting.
Yeah, background conversation, even with a hearing aid, can be very disturbing to someone with hearing loss, because now it's all amplified. It's hard to hear. So anytime that I go out to dinner or lunch with a senior, I'd always make sure that you didn't go to a loud restaurant. You can't do that, because they're just like close in and close off completely. And that's what I found out. That was the reason they can't. It's just what you described. You get the different conversations, they can't hear well.
Yep.
Other ways, I call it adaptive technologies, that most elderly people or seniors do shun, because they don't want to. It's just it might be as simple as a cane, a walker, to get people up and out of their room and interact with the staff, the volunteers, or other residents or their family members. And some of them don't want to use it, but you've got that encouragement, that confidence. You've got to get them up and moving. So it's super important, and that gets rid of the isolation. Instead of eating in your room, eat in the dining area. But it does take that extra. Make sure they have the proper equipment to get there.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, I can see how that would be really important. I never really thought about that, but yeah, it's I'm sure like activities managers out there would be really, I think it's really important for them to make sure that patients, not in an acute setting, that residents are doing that. What other things you got? I'm sure there must be a dozen things like this. Any other big ones?
Well, another thing, just flipping, the flip side is with Net Solutions, we do have our family portal. which allows you to connect into into our software and be able to see notifications. And soon we'll have the e-results, so any lab results that come back. And of course, you want to be part of, the family wants to be part of the care. With that, it makes it a lot easier. And you're not pulling the nurse away from their care on the floor to be able to do that. So that's one of the great things about the family portal. You can get updates on your loved one without interrupting the care to maybe your family member or other family, other residents in the facilities.
Okay, that's really good. Yeah, thank you for pointing that one out. That's something. Actually, I had a meeting yesterday where we were working on new ways to improve that system, and it's looking so beautiful. So I'm really excited to get that pushed out to more and more facilities, and I think that people across the U.S. are going to benefit from it a lot. So thank you
I,
for bringing that up.
I think so as well. And it's, to be able to look in, and that's one, here's another, a personal story was my mother-in-law. It was about 5 years ago. They both, lived a long life, but she was in a nursing facility. And I mentioned earlier that my wife's family, there's 8 brothers and sisters, and each one of them would call up every day, the nursing facility. Hey, how's mom doing? But taking 8 phone calls for that poor nurse, that's got to be, if you just add 5 minutes each, that's a lot of minutes that out of their day to just attend to one resident, which is not only not fair to that resident as well as the other residents in the facility, but it's just a bad use of time. So yeah, the family portal will certainly help with that type of situation.
Great, fantastic. Any other notes on things like hearing aids? Anything else? I think we got a couple other tech items to bring up as well.
Yeah, just one other piece. Just make sure that everybody's up on their vision test and they're wearing the glasses, because a lot of people don't like the hearing aid. I wear them just to see close up myself. But yeah, if you don't have the glasses on, you're not going to be able to. One of the things you'll miss out that I think is that you're not seeing the body language. So you're missing out of half the conversation. So not only maybe you're not hearing well, and then you're not seeing well, so you're missing out. That isolates people dramatically.
Gotcha. That's I can see how that would be really, really difficult, especially if you got the hearing and the vision and not leaving the room, and all of that added up together, not getting outside. Like, I think that these are really, really good points. And in addition to the family portal, I think you're going to bring up some other tech things that a lot of facilities are doing these days, but really everybody could be doing, and a lot of them should be doing. What do you have on the list for that?
Yeah, for technology, FaceTime, a great way to connect with the family, volunteers. It's really the next best thing to being there. And I'll bring up another story. One of my brother-in-law, who's a monk in Slovenia, wasn't able.
Really? Your brother-in-law's a monk in Slovenia?
Yes, and he can't. It's one of these places. Once you're in, they don't really let you leave. And my father-in-law had gone over there, 5 years ago for the last visit, and the last year of his life, my son and his cousin, they went over to Slovenia and they did a video, and just like we're doing here, and he saved it on his phone and came back and then played it on the laptop for him. He must have watched it 50 times, 100 times, and it would say, "Dad, how you doing?" And just go. It was probably 15, 20 minutes long, but he would just watch it constantly. He loved it. And it was just amazing. One, amazed by the technology, the amazement, and, just in his face was just incredible. But so it does work. And it was very uplifting for him. It changed his whole mood for the day every time he watched it. So, which was pretty incredible. You also have Zoom, which is easy to use, free. It's easy to facilitate a call between the resident and their loved ones. and then they can have, so someone who's 93 years old probably isn't going to be able to pick up a laptop or a tablet and do it, but it certainly can be done by the staff, and the staff should encourage it. But they can also, with a tablet or a laptop and a connection to the internet, you can play the music that they love, from whatever genre that they like. Maybe it's 50s jazz, maybe it's early rock and roll, whatever it might be, you can pull it up and it's there. And when you're 94 years old, you don't know that. And they may not be aware of it, but once you get people hooked, it's amazing. There was a program that was done where people would send in their old iPods, and then they'd fill the iPods with music and give it to residents. And they would be able to listen to all the types of music that they liked. So it's just another way to do it. If you had a Spotify account, you can just go ahead and put in a library or a station and just listen.
I have a quick question. We did a video about the CMP reinvestments, civil money penalty reinvestments. Sorry, I just remember what the acronym was for. If you applied for money for the CMP, could you get the devices at your facility?
Yes, and they are giving out the money. It's easy to apply. It's 2 pages, and each state has a different application process. And if you go to that video, you'll hear all the details. But the key thing is you can get free iPads, essentially.
Perfect.
So, I encourage every facility to do that, because it's more than just the FaceTime. You can also pull up and connect to any old movie or old TV show. If someone, likes one of the early TV shows, they can go on, you can click it up on anything on YouTube and you can watch it. And to be able to see and, just look at the amazement on someone's face when you can pull up an old, I don't even know these old, a MASH, for example, something that's pretty old, or Gunsmoke, to be able to see an old TV show that they might be connected with. And that's a great thing to be able to do. And you can do it for free. So
when I was in the hospital, I finally got to the point. So I was in the hospitals before I got moved to a rehab facility. And I remember telling the nurse, just turn off the TV. I can't stand to watch one more minute of reality television. She's like, you'd rather have it off? And I was like, I'd rather sit here in silence than watch another second of this stuff.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah. If I had an iPad or just some sort of tablet device where I could just watch television, or just watch something of my choosing rather than just reality TV, it would have made a big difference, because I spent a lot of hours alone in the hospital. And I remember just like looking up at the ceiling because I couldn't move. I was on my back and my back was broken and I couldn't move. And I would just count the dots on the ceiling, and I would just count them over and over and over and over again, because that's all I had to do. That's all I could do.
And if you're a senior and you're, physically unable to get out and move around, and you're going to be in that same situation. I don't think, the average person realizes, so this social isolation, what they're going through.
Yep. But it's hard. It's really hard. Looking forward to my family coming to see me every day. Like that was the thing. That was the thing that I had every day. And if that was taken away and all I had was reality television, that would have been terrible.
And if you didn't, and some people, when you get, have children, and so they don't have the family members coming in.
Yep. All right, I got a couple other notes on our list for today's stuff. We've got, let's see. So what can providers do right now? Tell me about what providers are doing at the moment.
Yeah, so there's no more hugs from family during the pandemic, but there's the FaceTime and the phone calls. And there is some limited visiting at this point in time, certain phases of reopening. But there's still the fist bump and the high five. So you still get some of that. One of the things, just hand holding and hugging, has the capability of lowering anxiety and stress, but it may not be possible during the pandemic. And uh, if you don't have that, you're going to have decreased mental well-being. You're going to, they need to, the staff and visitors and volunteers need to be cognizant of the fact, and you got to treat the people with little extra sensitivity during this time period. And I think a lot of people that work in the facilities realize that, and the family members, there's certainly, it's been tough on them.
Yeah, for sure. I know it's been really hard on a lot of the family members. So I see you got a note here as well about a positive self-image. Tell me a little bit about that. What's going on? What's going on with self-image for the residents?
Yeah, with the residents, you're somewhat depressed. You're isolated. You don't want to get out of your room. You don't want to get up. You may not get out of bed. But one of the things that could certainly help is, the staff and family members encourage them to get dressed, get up, and that their appearance to keep up the appearance, and it gives them confidence. When you dress well, you'll feel confident. Just
Yep.
as people say, going into the interview, dress well, feel confident and get the job. And the same goes for any part of life. Get up, get dressed, and don't put on sweatpants. Put on a button down. Feel a little, feel like you're part of life. And I think that will, get it a daily routine. It's going to help.
Yep. I think that probably a lot of the people that are working from home right now, including myself, kind of suffer from that. Like I found actually it was a lot better for me when I got up and I took a shower in the morning, like I was getting ready to go to an office, and then I just came into my front room and sat down and started working. But like I would get ready to go to work, and it makes a big difference. It makes a really, really big difference. And like
Yeah, your whole attitude changes.
yeah, putting on a shirt, like getting ready, being presentable, feeling good about yourself. It makes a difference for you and I. I'm sure it makes a huge difference for people in skilled nursing and ALFs and like that kind of thing.
Absolutely. So everything we're doing is, sort of amplified in their world as well.
Yep. So any other things, any other major points?
Yeah, I think my last point here is, it's important to maintain religious service and spirituality for, whatever the resident wants or whatever they've grown up with. Some of them have a lifelong affiliation with weekly or even daily religious services. And it's those key routines which they're familiar with, even if it's online at this point, or even if it's a once a week visit by the pastor or priest in the facility. That's something that they look forward to. It's also something that's spiritual for them, and it's good for them. And just like they anticipated the mail, they're anticipating Sunday morning service. So it's really important.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And do you know, I actually I haven't checked on this. Are they letting the preachers, the priests, the rabbis, are they letting them into the facilities now?
They are, and so each state has their own phased openings. So some states, I assume yes, and others, might be, less so. So I don't know precisely.
Yeah, I think it is state by state because I've heard in some places where it's not happening, and I've heard in some where it's much more liberal, and they're letting in some places. I haven't seen it, but I heard they're letting family members in more regularly as well.
Exactly, and it is state by state, so it is different for each state. Some are wide open, and others are, where I am in Massachusetts, it's very tight and regimented. Only because we had the worst, probably one of the worst of it, not as bad as New York, but people remember that, and they're very hesitant and to just open right up.
Yep. And I'm in Georgia, so we're seeing some of the worst right now as well. Like the highest caseloads in the U.S. Some of the highest are in Georgia right now. So I'm pretty confident everything here is pretty locked down. So that was a lot of stuff. We had a long video today. This was some
We sure did.
great stuff. So I'm just going to do a real quick recap to make sure we've got everything. We talked about your personal stories with self-isolation and like what your family members have gone through and what exactly it is, what exactly it means. We talked a little bit about how to combat social isolation during COVID-19 with things like the gardening and the dogs and things like the pet visits and things like that. And then we've got the adaptive technologies, things like our family portal, things like Zooms, things like FaceTime, et cetera. We also talked about how to help as far as getting, help with the social isolation in a lot of other ways, including things like being, the high fives and fist pumps from the providers. We talked about positive self-image. We talked about maintaining religious services. We talked about what did I miss? Did I miss anything?
Hearing aids. Yes.
And making the hearing aids, the glasses, and making sure that people are coming down and being social where they can in those facilities. And I think that was most of it. Any other big items I missed?
No, I think you got it all. And it was a great, I think it was a great video and a lot of nice points. And it's certainly relevant in today's world.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. As usual, how can people find you? What's the email address to get in touch with you if somebody wants to talk about expanding their current services with us or doing something new with us?
It's kevin.mccormick@cantatahealth.com.
Perfect. All right. So for anybody out there who needs some help with things, reach out to Kevin. He is clearly very, very knowledgeable about this stuff. And please, if you get a chance, like our video so that we can share more with you, and jump on our newsletter if you want to get these videos on a regular basis. Thank you guys so much. And Kevin, thank you so much. I'll see you again probably next week. Sound good?
Yes, sounds
All right.
great.
Perfect. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
Bye.